ChatGap said, in the year 2000 the United States Mint unveiled one of the most symbolic and history-rich pieces of the legendary 50-state quarters program, and among these treasures stands the South Carolina State Quarter, a coin that does far more than simply represent 25 cents in American currency. It serves as a compact storybook, a miniature history lesson, and a timeless tribute to one of the most influential states in the birth and shaping of the nation. When you hold the South Carolina 2000 quarter in your hand, you are not just looking at a small piece of metal, you are holding a doorway into a journey that stretches back hundreds of years, a story of exploration of colonial power, struggles of revolution of culture, and of the birth of American identity. South Carolina was the 8th state to ratify the United States Constitution, and it is often referred to as the Palmetto State, a title that is proudly featured on the coin's reverse design. This coin, struck in the year 2000, depicts not just a simple tree or a random design, it captures the sable palmetto, the state tree, which once played a vital role in defending Charleston from British naval bombardments during the Revolutionary War. As cannonballs struck the soft yet resilient palmetto logs, they were absorbed rather than shattered, saving lives and fortifications, and the symbolism carried through history, making the palmetto a lasting icon of courage, strength, and resistance. The quarter also highlights the outline of the state itself, with the star marking the capital city of Columbia, while surrounding the map are three other important elements: the palmetto tree, the Carolina wren, which is the state bird, and the yellow jessamine, the vibrant state flower. Together, these symbols reflect not only the natural beauty of South Carolina, but also its cultural identity and its deep connection to the land. The quarter's motto proudly reads, "The Palmetto State," reminding every American who sees it of the powerful role the state played in shaping the course of national destiny. But to truly appreciate the South Carolina 2000 quarter, one must dive much deeper into the story behind it, because South Carolina was not merely another colony, it was one of the wealthiest and most influential during the 18th century, and it played a central role in both the American Revolution and later in the Civil War. The roots of South Carolina's history stretch back to the late 1600s, when English settlers established the Carolina colony, supported by the Lords Proprietors granted land by King Charles II. Over time, the colony split into North and South Carolina, with the Southern Territory becoming a hub of rice, indigo, and later cotton plantations, which shaped both its prosperity and its dependence on enslaved labor. This reality made South Carolina both an economic powerhouse and a flashpoint of conflict, as the ideals of liberty and equality clashed with the system of slavery, upon which so much wealth was built. As the Revolution approached, South Carolina's strategic port city of Charleston became one of the most important battlegrounds. The defense of Sullivan's Island in 1776, where palmetto logs absorbed British cannon fire, gave rise to the symbol immortalized on the state flag, and later on the quarter. This victory boosted morale across the colonies, proving that the seemingly invincible British Empire could be resisted. But South Carolina's story did not end with independence. It became a stage for debates over federal power versus state sovereignty, and was the first state to secede from the Union in 1860, leading directly into the Civil War. Its capital, Columbia, was burned during Sherman's march, and its people endured profound hardship. Yet out of this turmoil, South Carolina rebuilt itself, preserving its cultural traditions while adapting to a new American reality. The South Carolina quarter, released on May 22, 2000, was the 8th coin of the series, and its circulation sparked immense public interest. Collectors rushed to acquire pristine examples of the coin, and the design was praised for capturing a balance between natural beauty, historical power, and state pride. Millions of these quarters were minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, but what makes some of them especially fascinating to collectors today are the error coins, those rare pieces that feature off-center strikes, double dies, or other minting anomalies which can make a coin worth far more than its face value beyond its monetary value. However, the South Carolina quarter embodies a layered story that could fill hours of discussion, from the indigenous tribes who lived on the land before European colonization to the struggles of enslaved Africans who built much of its early economy. to the voices of revolutionaries who fought for liberty, to the resilience of communities who rebuilt after war and disaster. Each chapter of South Carolina's history echoes through the simple yet powerful imagery chosen for its quarter. This coin is a miniature textbook, one that sparks questions about why certain symbols were chosen, what they meant to people in the year 2000, and how they reflect the centuries of history before them. To explore it fully is to embark on a 2-hour journey into the politics, the culture, the wars, the struggles, the natural heritage, and the enduring pride of the Palmetto State. So when you look at the South Carolina 2000 quarter, you are not just holding a coin, you are holding a story of resilience, of heritage, and of a state that has shaped the destiny of America from its very beginnings to the modern day. And that story is one that deserves to be told in full, with the depth, detail, and passion that this tiny yet mighty piece of history demonstrates. South Carolina 2000 quarter is not only a coin of circulation, it is a historical monument struck in miniature form. It is the 8th coin released in the 50-state quarters program, and it reflects the pride, resilience, and spirit of a state that has long stood at the center of the American story. The very act of placing the outline of South Carolina, a coin with a star marking the capital of Columbia, reminds every collector and every casual observer that this is a state with a legacy both geographically and historically central to the Union and its conflicts. The palmetto tree standing tall beside the outline is not a random artistic choice, it is a carefully chosen emblem of defense, independence, and endurance. For when the British warships sailed against the palmetto log fortifications at Sullivan's Island, they expected their cannon fire to shatter the defenses and scatter the colonists. Instead, the spongy wood absorbed the iron shots, turning what should have been destruction into resilience. This moment elevated the palmetto tree into legend and ensured its place not only on the flag, but on every emblem representing the state, and now on the quarter itself. But the symbolism of the quarter does not stop there. The Carolina wren, perched upon the map, is a reminder of South Carolina's natural world. This small bird, with its strong voice, is the official state bird chosen because it thrives in both rural and urban landscapes, representing adaptability and persistence, traits that mirror the people of South Carolina who, through wars, natural disasters, and economic changes, have always found ways to survive and flourish. The yellow jessamine, which wraps itself gracefully into the design, adds another layer of meaning. This flower, known for its bright golden color and fragrance, represents beauty, resilience, and growth, even in challenging conditions. It is a flower that blossoms early in the spring, symbolizing renewal and hope, and together with the wren and the palmetto tree, it creates a triad of natural symbols that reflect the environment, heritage, and identity of the palmetto state. To understand why this quarter resonates so deeply, one must trace the long path of South Carolina's history. For the land was originally home to native peoples like the Catawba and Cherokee, who thrived for centuries before European arrival. Their cultures shaped the land through trade networks, hunting practices, and diplomacy. But by the time English settlers arrived in the late 17th century, much of their land and way of life would be displaced. South Carolina was originally part of the larger Carolina colony, named in honor of King Charles II. The Lords Proprietors were given wide authority, and the colony quickly became an agricultural powerhouse. Rice and indigo flourished in the fertile coastal plains, worked by enslaved Africans who brought not only their labor, but their cultural traditions, knowledge of rice cultivation, and resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship. These contributions became part of the foundation of South Carolina's identity, an identity built upon a complicated mixture of wealth, tradition, struggle, and survival. In the year 2000, the United States Mint released the Massachusetts State Quarter as part of its ambitious and historic 50-state quarters program. And while at first glance it may seem like just another piece of circulating change, this quarter carries with it a story that spans centuries. It is more than a coin. It is a link to America's colonial past, a symbol of independence, and a carefully crafted piece of numismatic art that has intrigued collectors, historians, and everyday Americans. Since its release, to understand the Massachusetts 2000 quarter, one must first understand the larger context of the 50-state quarters program, which was one of the most successful coinage programs in American history. Launched in 1999, this program was designed to honor each of the 50 states with a unique reverse design issued in the order that each state ratified the Constitution or was admitted to the Union. The idea was not just to put new designs into circulation, but to engage the public with history, geography, and culture while sparking a new wave of coin collecting. The Massachusetts quarter was the sixth coin released in the series, and it carries enormous symbolic weight. Massachusetts was the sixth state to ratify the Constitution, doing so on February 6, 1788, and its quarter highlights its role as a cradle of American liberty. The design features the famous outline of the state itself, a bold representation of the geographical boundaries of Massachusetts. Inside the outline is the figure of the Minuteman, a symbol deeply tied to the Revolutionary War and to the spirit of ordinary citizens who rose up to defend their rights. The Minuteman depicted on the coin is based on the iconic statue in Concord, Massachusetts, known as the Minuteman statue, created by Daniel Chester French in 1875. The statue commemorates the farmers and townspeople who became soldiers at a moment's notice during the battles of Lexington and Concord in 1775, battles that marked the start of the American Revolution. By placing this image on the quarter, the Mint paid homage not just to a state, but to a national moment of defiance and the birth of independence. Surrounding the figure of the Minuteman are the words Massachusetts and the Bay State, the official nickname of Massachusetts, a name that harkens back to its identity as one of the earliest English colonies in North America, founded in 1630 around Massachusetts Bay. When the coin entered circulation, it carried immediate historical depth that resonated with both New Englanders and Americans across the nation. But beyond the design itself, there is an entire story of production, mintage, and collecting that makes the Massachusetts quarter especially fascinating. In 2000, the coin was struck at multiple mints, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, resulting in circulation strikes as well as proof coins and special silver proofs. Millions upon millions were produced, making them common in pocket change at the time. But as with all coinage, rarity does not always come from how many were minted, but from the varieties, errors, and the conditions in which coins survive today. Collectors quickly began to identify examples with striking errors such as off-center strikes, double dies, and other minting anomalies, and it is these error coins that today can fetch substantial premiums far beyond the face value of 25 cents. Moreover, condition is everything. A Massachusetts quarter pulled from circulation in 2000 and carried around in pockets for years may still be interesting, but it holds only sentimental value. A pristine example, graded mint state 67 or higher, however, can become a prized addition to a collection. The history of the Massachusetts quarter also ties directly into the culture of the early 2000s, when the state quarter program was reshaping numismatics in the United States. Before 1999, coin collecting had struggled to capture the public imagination in the way it once did, but the state quarters changed that. Suddenly millions of Americans were looking at their change more closely, hunting for each new release, filling maps and albums that the mint and private companies sold, and teaching younger generations about history through coinage. The Massachusetts quarter was among the first wave of these issues, and so it holds a special place as part of that revival of popular coin collecting. But if we step even deeper into history, the Massachusetts quarter becomes a kind of portal to the larger story of Massachusetts itself. The colony, and later the state, has been central to nearly every chapter of American history, from the landing of the Pilgrims in 1620 to the Revolutionary War, to the growth of industry, literature, and higher education in the centuries that followed. The Minuteman at its center reminds us that Massachusetts was where the revolution began, where the first shots were fired, and where the spirit of liberty was defended with ordinary citizens' courage. The decision to place the outline of the state alongside the Minuteman was deliberate and meaningful. It was a way of saying that the land itself, and the people who lived on it, were inseparable from the idea of freedom. The Massachusetts Bay Colony, founded by Puritans in the 17th century, had long been associated with ideals of self-governance, religious independence, and community identity, and these threads continued into the Revolutionary era when Massachusetts leaders like Samuel Adams, John Adams, and Paul Revere helped ignite the flame of resistance against British rule. The quarter, therefore, is more than a small piece of metal. It is a miniature history book pressed into copper and nickel. It connects the pocket change of an ordinary citizen in the year 2000 with events that unfolded over 2 centuries earlier on the battlefields and commons of colonial Massachusetts. And if we look at the production side, the Massachusetts quarter also marked an era when the mint was pushing the limits of design and public engagement. Designing a state quarter was no small task. The process involved the governor of Massachusetts forming a committee, proposals being submitted, designs being reviewed by the U.S. Commission of Fine Arts and the Citizens Commemorative Coin Advisory Committee, and finally approval from the Secretary of the Treasury. The chosen design had to balance historical symbolism, artistic quality, and technical practicality. For mass production, in the end, the choice of the Minuteman was almost inevitable because of its deep cultural resonance. Yet, what fascinates collectors today is not only the history behind the design, but the lasting impact of these quarters on the hobby of numismatics. Coin dealers across the country reported massive increases in traffic in 2000, and many families began collecting quarters together for the first time, often with children learning geography by hunting down the states in circulation. Today, some of the rarest Massachusetts quarters are those struck in proof silver, which were not intended for general circulation, but sold in sets to collectors. The beauty of these coins lies not only in their gleaming surfaces, but in their symbolism, as treasures that combine art history and tangible wealth. And as with every coin in the series, the Massachusetts quarter offers us an opportunity to reflect on how coins serve as storytellers of national identity. They are everyday objects that pass through countless hands, yet they preserve images of battles, leaders, and values that have shaped the nation. The Massachusetts 2000 quarter encapsulates the bravery of citizen soldiers, the heritage of one of America's oldest states, and the revival of numismatics at the dawn of the new millennium. And when we consider its place in history, it becomes clear that this is not just a coin, it is a time capsule and a teaching tool. It is a reminder that the smallest pieces of change can hold the biggest stories, and that is why the Massachusetts 2000 quarter continues to captivate collectors and historians alike, and why its story could fill hours of discussion without ever exhausting its meaning.